In this video, we will look at how to study for math. Success in math is one of the biggest challenges facing students. Learning math is much different than learning other subjects. Math consists of concepts, vocabulary, and formulas that need to be understood in order to be applied. Learning math is dependent on understanding math. Let's look at some of the roadblocks affecting students when trying to learn math. Success in math is one of the biggest challenges facing students. There are many reasons why math is a struggle for students in schools today. Anxiety. For some students, they feel anxious just thinking about math. This usually comes from a previous learned aversion to math. Lack of motivation. When something is difficult or challenging, it is easy to feel less motivated to do the work. Feelings of inadequacy. When we do not achieve the grades we think we should be getting, this can foster feelings of inadequacy about ourselves. Belief that one is not smart enough. If you are not understanding a subject, it is easy to blame it on your level of intelligence, when that is simply not the case. And I just hate math. If you think it, you will believe it, and that belief will persist throughout your studies. It will become your truth. These negative self-thoughts that students have regarding math create roadblocks to learning. It can be very easy to convince yourself that your negative self-thoughts are your reality. Math is consistently regarded as the subject that most students feel they are the least good at. There are real solutions, however, to help students become comfortable with and excel at math. Let's take a closer look at some of these solutions, and we will start with looking at how college differs from high school. One needs to be aware of the expectations that are on you when you start your post-secondary education. College is different from high school. To be successful, you must adapt your expectations to fit the requirements of college life. First off, attendance is optional in most classes. Your instructor may keep attendance, but there are usually no consequences to not showing up. If you don't come, it affects you and nobody else. Semesters are shorter and require more study time. The usual semester in high school is about 5 months, but post-secondary is just a little more than 3. In order to really understand the material, you will need to do more work on your own. Class is often less hours a week than high school. The instructor has a lot of material to cover, and so may only introduce some topics in class. It is your responsibility to do the work outside of class and get help with what you don't understand. Students are responsible for information whether it is covered in class or not. Even though a topic wasn't fully covered in class, it is fair game if it's on the course outline. And it is the student's responsibility to seek out what they missed if they missed class. The instructor will not have notes for you if you miss class. It will be up to you to seek and find what you missed. As a college student, the onus is on you to take responsibility for your own learning. In high schools, the teachers spoon feed, but in college, you must learn to feed yourself. It is up to you to decide how much effort you need to put in to obtain the grades that you want to receive. This often requires a student to adjust their attitudes about math, specifically stopping with the negative self-thoughts and saying things like, "I hate math." This type of thinking is self-destructive and must be removed from your vocabulary. If you keep telling yourself you can't do it, then that will become your reality and you will never be successful. Be positive and good things will follow. So first things first, it is important to know a few basic things about your course. When is my instructor available for office hours? Is there a tutor available? When are the exams and assignments scheduled? What sections will be covered on the exams? And is there a potential for rewrites? Being familiar with these pieces of information will allow you to feel comfortable with how the semester will play out. Most of this information is found on your course outline. Make sure you read it. So what can I do to feel less anxious about math? It is important to remember that poor performance in math is rarely due to a lack of intelligence. Having good overall study skills is the first step to excelling in math. The key to attaining proficiency in math is to stay organized, manage your time, and find strategies that work for you in your studies. The less prepared you are, the more anxious you will be. Math anxiety is a learned behavior, and as such, it can be changed. It is the self-doubt that one is not good at math, even though there is no real evidence to substantiate this claim. This self-doubt leads to stress, tension, and eventually procrastination. The good news is that there are ways to work through and overcome these feelings and alleviate the problem. One of the most important aspects to understanding math is to know the language. There's a reason why math sounds like a foreign language, because it is. There are terms we use in math that we don't see in any other course. When you encounter new terminology, you should be making yourself lists of terms that you need to know and then use those lists to make flashcards. You need to familiarize yourself with the terminology in order to understand the concepts. So what can you do to be successful in math? Time management is crucial to becoming a successful student. It is important to make a plan and to try and stick as closely to that plan as possible. First, you need to manage your time. Keep in mind that for math classes, it is not so much about the amount of time you spend, but rather the number of practice questions that you do. Math requires very little rote memorization, but a great amount of practice in order to learn concepts and be able to apply formulas. Prioritize your activities. What is the most important task you need to do today? Always start with the things that need to get done first. If you have a test tomorrow, then that should be your priority for today. If you have an assignment due in math, then that should be your priority. Always decide which is the most important task for today, and then at the bare minimum, you should complete that task. Set realistic goals. Goals must be realistic and attainable. Don't schedule lots of priority tasks for the same day, or it is likely you won't get them done. For example, if you have a term paper and a math test all on the same day, do not leave them to the last minute. The quality of your work will suffer, and so will your grades. Start using your weekly schedules and monthly schedules to organize your schoolwork. That way you will not be hit with numerous important assignments all at once. Make a semester plan. Start the semester by using a calendar to make a monthly plan for the whole semester. Include on your calendar every assignment, lab, report, essay, exam, etc. that you find on your course outlines. If your instructor has given you a timeline in class, use that to write all of the important dates on the calendar so that you have the whole semester at a glance. That way you can see what is coming for each month and you can start to prepare early. Hang all 4 months somewhere that you can view them frequently, thus avoiding having something suddenly due tomorrow that you didn't realize was coming due. Make a weekly plan. This is the plan that allows you to organize your daily activities so that you can plan around classes, labs, appointments, work, school functions, kids' sporting events, church, anything like that. Keeping track on a weekly basis helps you to see where and when you can organize your study time. Make a to-do list. Every day you should be writing down the tasks that need to be completed. Some students like to use day planners. Others want to simply keep a list on hand every day. Use whatever suits you best. If you have 7 things on your to-do list for today, list them in order of importance. Then at the end of the day, if there are tasks at the bottom of your list that you didn't get done, they go to the top of the list for tomorrow. Always push any incomplete tasks to the top of the next day's list, and that way you will never forget to complete a task. Make sure you know what sections will be covered in math class and write those in your plan so that you have an idea about how much will be covered. Just say no. Don't say yes to social engagements when you know you have too much to do. A big part of being a good student is knowing when to say no. We often say yes to people because by nature we don't like to say no. Chances are the thing you are being asked to do will still be there on the weekend or next week. If your gut instinct is to say no because you have too much to do, then listen to your gut. Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least. And finally, reward yourself. As you set goals, make sure that you reward yourself when the goal is accomplished. I will study every night this week so that I can go see a movie on the weekend. Rewarding yourself will keep you motivated. So let's look at how to manage your math anxiety. So many people have anxiety related to math. Typically, this anxiety comes from some experience early in life that establishes an irrational fear. For math anxiety, this often comes from feeling inadequate in grade school, not being able to answer questions the teacher is asking, or not being able to keep up with everyone in the class. These experiences lay the foundation for a lifetime of negative self-thoughts, and those thoughts are what create anxiety. Here are some steps to help you manage that anxiety. First, do math every day, even if it's for 15 or 30 minutes. Sit down and do questions that reinforce the concepts that you learned. It is important to keep up with this throughout the semester. You will gain confidence and proficiency, and that will result in reduced anxiety. Do not skip class. If you miss class, make sure that you are following the course outline to keep up. Get notes from a classmate. Check Blackboard for any information posted by the instructor. See your instructor in their office hours to find out what you missed. It is important to keep up with what you missed, as the concepts will continue to build upon each other. If not, the problem will snowball and you will surely fall behind. Prepare for class. If your instructor has notes posted on Blackboard, then print them off and bring them to class. Read the notes beforehand so that you are familiar with what will be covered in class. This material is what they will be following in their lectures. Having that available will allow you to add to their notes, but more importantly, it will allow you to pay closer attention to what they are saying, because you will have already familiarized yourself with the material. Be organized. Keep your notes neat so that you can follow them once you are out of class. If your notes are messy, you will have trouble keeping up. Rewrite your notes if necessary, but better yet, add to them after class when you are reviewing so that you can embellish what the instructor said in class. Often writing your own notes will help you to grasp concepts because you are paraphrasing in a language that is familiar to you. Keep the chapters separated and always put handouts in their respective sections. This way you will know what material is related and can find those pages with ease when necessary. It is important to keep practice questions with their related notes from class. This will help when you need to see how to approach a question. Stop the negative self-thoughts. Instead of saying, "I don't get this," tell yourself, "Once I understand this, I will master it." Constantly telling yourself you can't do something will lead to actually not being able to do it. You must give yourself positive affirmations. If you get a bad mark on a test, remind yourself that just because you had a bad test, that doesn't make you a bad student. Slay that dragon next time. And use the resources available to you. See your instructor in their office. Get help from the tutors. Look at videos online. YouTube has some amazing math videos to help you with concepts. You just have to be proactive enough to seek and find them. All of these hints will help you to rid yourself of math anxieties. You just need to stick with it. Math is easy if you study smarter, not harder. Prep before class. To be a good listener in class, you have to be proactive in your studies. This means you need to do a bit of prep work before class starts. By reviewing the previous day's class notes, you will engage your brain and the material will seem familiar. Look at problems that were done in class to reinforce the steps that were used. This familiarity allows you to be a better listener because the material will be fresh when you are in class. Being able to pick up on familiar topics will help you to engage in the lesson, and that is how you become a better student. When you can follow along in class, you are more likely to understand the concepts. Use your textbook. Not all students understand how to properly use a math textbook. Most textbooks will have the answers to the odd questions at the back of the book. Often you can find pages with formulas on them in the appendix. Use the glossary if you are having trouble finding a concept. This will point you in the right direction. Use the example questions in the chapters as a guide when working on similar problems. Use flashcards. Flashcards are an excellent tool for students to use when studying. They engage you while you are making them, they challenge you when you are using them, and they are a great way to summarize concepts into smaller packets of information. They are a great way to view your notes besides the usual page after page after page of written text. When making flashcards for math, you can design them to look any way that best helps you to learn. Use them for vocabulary words, for formulas, definitions, problems, solutions. Keep related topics together in bundles for study purposes. This will allow you to grab the packets and go, keeping related materials together. Flashcards are useful to use as study aids. If they are made correctly, they can be used not only to study from, but also to test yourself. You can carry packets of flashcards with you wherever you go. You can use them to quickly study when you have a few minutes. They are easy to carry, quick to use, and easy to separate into bundles of what you know and what you need to study. Deciphering word problems. Word problems are the biggest issues that students face in math. It requires you to translate the words into equations so that you can use math principles to solve them. Utilize the example questions in your textbook and follow the procedures outlined in the book. The example questions are there to show you how to put concepts into practice. As with other question types, repetition is the only way to become comfortable with deciphering word problems. They will all look different, but conceptually you solve them in very similar ways. You need to become a master at deciding just what that is. Practice, practice, practice. Don't take shortcuts. When doing math questions, be sure to follow proper procedure every time. Don't take shortcuts because shortcuts almost always lead to mistakes. Also, when learning a new concept, be sure to make note of the steps involved and write them down until you feel you have a grasp on the concept. This way, you have something to look back on if you are having trouble. And last, homework is an integral part of studying. Unlike reading sections of a textbook and memorizing them, math is learned by repetition. You may memorize the concepts, but unless you can apply them, you will not do well on exams. Doing lots of practice questions is the only way to really gain proficiency in math. Refer to examples done in class and follow the procedures when you are doing your homework. The questions may be different, but the concepts will be the same. If your instructor tells you to do the first 30 questions and you don't feel confident, then you should do more until you have mastered the concepts. Practice makes perfect. So what are the important things to remember? Do lots of practice questions. When learning math, the only way to truly master the material is to do as many practice questions as you can. Use the Solutions Manual. The Solutions Manual is an important resource as it shows you how to properly answer the questions. If nothing else, it can lead you in the right direction for the next problem that you are working on. Just don't use it as a crutch. You must do the questions on your own before you look in the Solutions Manual. Get lots of help. Access your instructor in their office hours. Seek out videos on YouTube. Find a tutor. Sometimes all you will need is a gentle push in the right direction. And finally, know how to use your calculator. Possibly one of the most important tips is to make sure you know how to use your calculator. Every calculator is different, and you need to be aware of how to enter order of operations and use brackets. Don't lose marks because you can't use the technology. So hopefully this video included some information that you see as valuable. Good luck and be successful. And remember these words from Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.